John here, guys, and today we're talking about the Foxeer Aura 3.5 inch. And yes, Foxeer is making this bind and fly available with the O3 unit, so I can use my DJI goggles too. This is one of the very first bind and flies for the new DJI FPV system, and man, this thing is really tough. Now, with toughness means that it's also a little bit heavy, and some people might be pawed off by that, but I'm not. Some people might even say that heavy is a sign of reliability. If it doesn't work, you can always hit them with it.
Heavy is reliable. If it doesn't work, you can always hit him with it.
Now, this uses Foxeer's Reaper all-in-one and their new Datura 2105.5 2650 kV motor. That means that you can power this thing on 6S. I'm trying it out on a 5S pack and it's already extremely juicy. Using 5S on a 6S quad is nature's throttle cut, guys. The Foxeer Aura 3.5 inch, no props in view bind and fly quad, up to 4K recording footage. I'm going to be using 2.7K at 100 frames per second. I think that's going to be a good compromise between image quality, super high refresh rate to the goggles, and also giving you some nice footage to be able to work with in post without the ultra large file sizes of 4K. I always love to use 2.7K when available. This thing is using the tried and true Foxeer Reaper all-in-one. It comes shipped with a variety of receivers. This actually comes with a crossfire, but I'm going to be switching it out for my trusty Ghost system that I use just because it's always in my radio. This is the top plate that comes off. I do like that it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws, so they do lighten this up a little bit, but it is not very light in general. Almost 270 grams. Now, this is a Kevlar strap, so you could probably save a couple by using something a little bit lighter, but you're looking at least 265 grams with props and strap. It's using the Datura 2105.5 2650 kV. If you remember my review of the 3.5 inch Cinewhoop, this is a very similar size setup. It's the same board, the same motors, the same type of props you would use. Has some really nice arm guards, chin spoiler at the front to protect you from front impacts. Now, if you take a look at this really nice O3 camera unit and I put it in place in the frame, you can see that the camera is just barely exposed. So if you hit it just right, you may have a little bit of an impact right there, but overall it's semi-protected. I'm not going to say fully protected on this because your top plate is going to sit kind of like that. So you do have a little bit of exposure. I would like to print some kind of something that can fit and maybe add a little more protection, but this little sort of a sunshade that comes on default is going to at least protect your lens from a straight flat on. The O3 unit itself fits really nicely with this custom holder that they have printed here. All the prints are very nice quality. I actually like this really cool sort of a Foxeer teal color. I'm actually going to use this little zip tie antenna mounting for my Ghost antenna. I really like this sort of sandwich design where you have half of it running at the front, half of it running at the back. That's very typical, and they've been doing that in most freestyle type frames since the Apex. That said, this thing is so heavy. They do offer a 4-inch version of this. If I was you, I'd probably just go ahead and pick the 4-inch version. You can run 3.5-inch props on that as well, and you'll just get a little more arm separation, or you have the option of running 4-inch props. For this size and weight, I actually really like the way 3.5-inch prop runs better, but for versatility's sake, you may as well go ahead and do it. Now, this motor combination is going to be good to all the way up to 6S. That's right, 6S on something this small is going to be very interesting. Now, I do like to run 6S on my Cinewhoops, and I did on that Foxeer Foxwhoop 3.5 inch. Now, I actually expected this to be a bit lighter than that, but it's pretty close to the same weight, but it should still fly a lot better because there is going to be no ducts. So you have access to all that power without the extra prop wash of having it be a ducted quad. Now, I'm using this on Ghost. I'm going to fly a little bit around our track tonight while we're setting up and just see how it goes. You know, the new system is quite popular right now, and I think you're going to be seeing more and more bind and flies. Now, with this combination, the price does go up all the way to about $480 with the crossfire receiver, but you can kind of option it out, build your own. I really like how this frame goes together. Let's go check it on the bench. What do you think of this?
So I was surprised. People say it's more latency on this DJI. So first time flying this DJI with these new goggles, and people say it's more latency, but it feels like it's more stable latency.
So easier to track fly?
Yeah, easier to track fly, and I feel like maybe I'll feel the latency when I fly my quad with my rates with my radio. Maybe then I feel, but so far, because I remember with the old DJI, you go somewhere a little bit behind the building, and it's like the picture is like, you know, it's not like smooth. It
starts to stutter.
Yeah. It's good when you fly right in front of you with good signal, but this is smooth and like I kind of like to fly it.
What do you think of this Foxeer little binder fly?
Yeah, I mean I crashed it. It survived. It was a light crash. It's a weird little fatty looking drone. It's like little arms and fat body. It's like
they made it perfectly for me.
Yeah, why is for you? I feel like you lost a lot of weight for the last 3 years. But it's interesting that it's 3.5 inch. Like
there's 4-inch version on.
It's fun to fly.
It's cool,
yeah.
You can fly full size battery.
Yeah. It's certainly like slower than 5-inch drones. It still does the power load.
Yeah. It's a lot quieter, so if somebody want to fly like in their neighborhood, they won't annoy people.
It's kind of loud when you get full throttle, but just flying around, you cannot really hear it. I like it, yeah.
So what do you guys think? Are you ready to dive into the world of DJI bind and flies? As long as you're spending this much money, should you really spend the time on the bench building? I mean, you can for those of us that like it, but for those of us that just want good footage, a nice tune out of the box. Speaking of, this thing flew exceptionally well on the stock tune. How many of these O3 units are you going to have? It does seem a little bit expensive at $229 for each video system, but if you think about, before we were spending $165, so we're only talking about 70 to 75 bucks more per build, and you have a much higher quality. And remember, this thing can be stabilized in gyro flow. That's right. Let's